Tonight on Currents News, rainbows are popping up all over the Diocese of Brooklyn, signs of hope and thanks.
Catholic school kids are displaying their gratitude to first responders and reminding us all there's always a rainbow after the storm. I'm Jessica Easthope with the uplifting story.
And a lifeline for those trapped at home. A Queens religious sister is making it happen.
Words of faith, even though we can't see each other, are so important.
New York's subway system will be grinding to a halt overnight. There's a good reason. Have they found a drug to treat the virus? We'll hear some answers. Plus, a top TV newsman is helping Catholic education after making the ultimate donation, the gift of life.
It's about our faith, frankly, because it was our parents raising us as Catholics that really helped us through this.
Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Everything will be all right. That's the message from school children in Queens. They've launched the Rainbow Connection as a sign of hope and a way to say thank you to our heroes. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from South Ozone Park.
You've heard the cheers and applause at 7 every night, thanking those on the front lines. Now, a younger generation is showing its gratitude to first responders and essential workers in its own way with these.
We were looking for lessons that were going to be engaging and relevant. Then I kind of researched a little more, and there were actual YouTube videos out there, and it had a name. It was the Rainbow Connection.
Sandra Paz is a 4th grade teacher at Our Lady's Catholic Academy in Queens. Her latest class project was inspired by a social media trend started thousands of miles away.
These rainbows in windows kept popping up in Italy as a result of COVID-19. And then somehow it had come over to Brooklyn. The little slogan that went with them in Italy was "Tutto andare bene," everything will be all right.
For 10-year-old Sean Ortiz and his parents, Manuel and Jasmine, the Rainbow Connection project is extra special.
I love them and I don't want them to get it because they're doing a good job saving people from the virus.
Sean's parents are both essential workers. Manuel works for the city and Jasmine works at a hospital. They're forced to wear masks all day at work and now at home in an effort to keep their family as safe as possible.
Not even being able to kiss them anymore. You know, the simplest thing like that is very difficult.
Jasmine says she's seen the worst of what coronavirus has done to the people of New York City.
There's times where I just break down. And of course we rely on our faith because that's all we can turn to right now. And just pray and hope it just disappears.
But what won't disappear are the rainbows. In fact, more are popping up every day.
But to actually see that on a window that, you know, little kids took their time to draw that to thank us means a lot.
Though there's no telling when this storm will pass, at the end of these rainbows, there's hope. Christine?
Jess, teachers are accomplishing so much through online learning. How does this project fit into the lesson plan?
You're right. Teachers are really relying on their creativity these days to come up with exciting, fun, engaging lessons for kids. And this was definitely one of them. Ms. Paz, the 4th grade teacher, told me that she was able to use this project related to art, obviously because of the drawing of the rainbows, social studies because it involved current events, English because there was a writing component, and even religion. In the book of Genesis, rainbows represent a covenant with God, between God and all the living creatures on earth, that when a rainbow appears in the clouds, there will be no more disasters.
Good reminder for all of us right now. Thanks, Jess. Stay with us for another uplifting story. Fox News Channel anchor Ed Henry talks about how faith inspired him to give the gift of life and how he now wants to help the Catholic Church. That's still ahead in this newscast. We could have a coronavirus vaccine by January. That's the word tonight from Dr. Anthony Fauci, a member of the White House task force. Reports quote him as saying the Trump administration is speeding up efforts to develop a vaccine and could have one ready by January. Some vaccines currently being studied are creating an ethical dilemma for Catholics because they use cell lines from aborted fetuses. But a researcher at a Catholic Bioethics Institute says it's not always wrong to use these vaccines, especially if there's no alternative. There's also new hope tonight in the search for a drug to treat the coronavirus. 2 different medications continue to be studied with promising results.
What it is proven is that a drug can block this virus.
That drug, remdesivir, is being touted with some optimism by Dr. Anthony Fauci after some early trials.
The data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery.
A study of more than 1,000 coronavirus patients showed an improved recovery time for those treated with the antiviral drug, 11 days compared to 15, a 31% improvement.
Although a 31% improvement doesn't seem like a knockout 100%, it is a very important proof of concept.
Hydroxychloroquine is another drug that's being studied, but with conflicting results. While one study funded by the National Institutes of Health showed there was no benefit and actually a higher death rate in patients taking this malaria drug, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons says hydroxychloroquine improved the odds of recovery for more than 90% of COVID patients. There's also ongoing work to find a vaccine. Researchers at the University of Oxford say they've already vaccinated hundreds of people with their experimental COVID-19 vaccine and expect trial results in mid-June. They've teamed up with UK-based global biopharmaceutical company AstraZeneca to develop and manufacture this vaccine on a large scale. But when it comes to treating the virus, the FDA is moving full steam ahead, planning to issue emergency authorization for remdesivir. But the World Health Organization says it's too early to tell just how effective it is.
And it can sometimes take a number of publications to determine what the ultimate impact of a drug is.
The CEO of Gilead Sciences, the company that makes remdesivir, says they have enough to treat 140,000 patients. It's currently given to patients through an IV, but Gilead is said to be working on an inhaled and oral version of the medication. And a quick reminder, Dr. Bob Tabali is here tomorrow. He'll tackle the latest developments about the vaccines and other COVID drugs and answer your questions regarding the coronavirus. Send them to askthedoctor@desalesmedia.org. Again, the email is askthedoctor@desalesmedia.org. Nursing homes in the U.S. are getting hit very hard by the pandemic. More than 1 in 6 facilities nationwide are reporting infections. Now, FEMA is scrambling to get emergency protective gear to the homes. The shipments start tomorrow and include surgical masks, gowns, and gloves. And New York's subways will be shut down overnight starting next week. Governor Andrew Cuomo is ordering the halt from 1 to 5 a.m. so that the trains are disinfected beginning next Wednesday. Currents News' Jessica Easthope reported on conditions underground yesterday, now that a large number of homeless are living on the trains. A religious sister in the Diocese of Brooklyn is taking action to make sure people facing stress living under stay-at-home rules have a personal connection. The nun is bringing hope, healing, and faith to them in a creative way. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story from Bayside, Queens.
The very breath of God.
It's more than a phone call. It's a lifeline.
And then you can hum along with the song.
For years, Sister Ave Clark has counseled people who are struggling through her heart-to-heart ministry. But those sessions can't happen now, so she set up a new way to reach them, a group phone call.
Words of faith, even though we can't see each other, are so important. So that's how I see this connection, as a connection of God's love via the phone.
Calling it wonderful hope, something very much needed during the pandemic as anxieties increase. Calls to the federal mental health crisis hotline jumped almost 900% compared to last year. Over 6.8 million Americans already suffer from anxiety, a common mental disorder often made worse by isolation, fear, and the financial pressures brought on by the coronavirus. President Trump talked about those worries when the pandemic first hit.
You're going to have massive depression, meaning mental depression. You're going to have depression in the economy also.
Sister Ave is lending a helping hand to those who are suffering, tackling all of those issues, plus one of the most difficult to come out of the pandemic, the loss of a loved one.
Well, for me, it's very personal because I lost my sister. Sorry. My sister passed away, from the virus.
A tough time for Susan Schwimmer and her family, made even more difficult by social distancing restrictions.
That's what's so hard about this is when you do lose someone, you don't have the physical family, the touch, like everything is missing. We had to bury her and just sit in the car.
Susan has been leaning on Sister Ave's phone line for support.
Knowing that all of these people love me and they were praying for me and her through this. She's with Jesus, and it just gives me the strength that I need to take it one day at a time.
This is exactly what Sister Ave had in mind: help, hope, and healing through faith and a personal connection. In Bayside, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
The United States and Canada will be consecrated to the Blessed Virgin Mary tomorrow. The special service of prayer is looking to Our Lady as a source of protection and strength during the coronavirus pandemic. Net TV, New York's Catholic station, will televise the consecration live starting at 3 p.m. tomorrow, the first day of Mary's month of May. Here are some more headlines. President Trump is getting back out on the road. He's planning to visit the battleground state of Arizona next week. Baseball's July Hall of Fame induction ceremony is being called off. That means Yankee great Derek Jeter is going to wait a year to get in. Costco is going to require all customers to wear face coverings starting on Monday. Joe Biden is putting together a team to help him pick a vice presidential candidate. The presumptive Democratic presidential nominee vows to select a woman as his running mate. The team will search for potential candidates and coordinate with a network of Democratic groups across the country on vetting the contenders. Then the background information will go to Biden so he can make a choice. There's a lot more news headed your way. We'll be joined by a Fox News anchor who says his faith helped him get through a life-saving surgery, and now he's showing his gratitude to the church. Plus, millions more join the unemployment line, filing first-time jobless claims. We'll have the startling numbers coming up. And what could be a victory in the fight against cancer? Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
People with weakened immune systems are at a higher risk during this pandemic, and one person who knows that all too well is Ed Henry. He anchors America's Newsroom on the Fox News Channel, and he joins us now to talk about a book he wrote on a life-saving donation he gave to his sister and how his faith helped him get through it. Ed, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Christine. It's really an honor to be with you.
Ed, first tell us about the surgery and how you and your sister are doing now during the pandemic.
Well, we're doing great, and I appreciate you asking and having me on. I mean, this happened in July of 2019, and, it was a harrowing experience because we didn't know how it was all going to turn out. I donated about 30% of my liver to my sister, who had a genetic liver disease, a form of cirrhosis, basically. And the bottom line is it all worked out, which is quite amazing. I feel great. I was out of the hospital within a week. My sister was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. I'd make a couple of points. One is the book is called Saving Colleen. It'll be out in September. We've just revealed the cover art. You can pre-order it on Amazon and all those other places. It charts a week in this journey, Sunday to Sunday. Sunday, I went on Fox and Friends, one of our great programs, to reveal that I was about to have surgery on Tuesday in July of 2019. And the following Sunday, as I mentioned, I got out of the hospital, which was remarkable that it was only a week. This was major surgery, obviously. I felt great then. I feel even stronger then. The book is called Saving Colleen because, yes, I saved her life, but I had all of these people come up to me and say, oh, you're a hero. That's amazing. And I wrote the book to say, no, the hero is Colleen, my sister, who's 2 years younger. She battled this disease very bravely, largely on her own. I came in at the end. Certainly I helped her, but it was my honor. The book's about sibling love. And it's about our faith, frankly, because it was our parents raising us as Catholics that really helped us through this.
All right, I want to take a listen to something you said to your colleagues on Fox News about your sister. Let's listen in.
She is the real hero. She battled this mostly on her own. I came in at the last minute. It's all about her.
Yeah, you got really emotional there for a little bit. What is the message you want readers to take away from your book, Saving Colleen?
You know, that you're not in it alone. We all have these battles that we face, these challenges we face in our lives. Interestingly, now that we're going through the pandemic, it's part of the reason why we announced that the book is coming. We were at Mount Sinai here in New York City. This is months before Mount Sinai and the other great hospitals here in New York became the epicenter of this pandemic. And the doctors, the nurses that we now all cheer at 7 p.m. Eastern every night, people walk outside and hit their pots and pans and applaud these brave heroes, frankly, the healthcare workers that people maybe took for granted before. I don't take them for granted because they literally saved my sister's life in July of 2019. I was there for her, but it was the doctors, the nurses who really saved her and helped bring me back. And I just think, you know, I've been getting so many notes from people ever since then who have been thinking about donating part of their liver or might be the recipient. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, since elective surgeries were shut off in most places, unless you're in an emergency situation where it's life or death at that moment, some people like my sister, they were, you know, she was sick, but it was over months that she could have taken this donation. People are not being able to donate right now because the hospital only focused on the pandemic. That leaves a lot of people anxious and nervous. I want to send the message, number one, that there are brave doctors and nurses there to help you. Number two, I just, you know, the big message of the book that when you ask that is give life. This is a great opportunity. It's not just, in the case of a liver, I gave 30%, as I said, and it regenerates. So mine completely grew back within like a couple of weeks. And then my sister, they took out her diseased liver and that 30% grew in her, regenerated, became a full liver. And then the other kind of living donation you can make is a kidney donation. And you can find out all about that online. Obviously, the Living Bank, the American Liver Foundation, they're great charities, and they handle this.
All right, one more thing I want to ask you is you're donating parts of your proceeds from the book to the church. Why are you doing that?
Well, I'm doing that because as I noted, my parents raised us as Catholics. Our faith is really important to us. We're not perfect, but you learn how to try to make yourself better. It's a journey for all of us. After I announced that I'm giving part of the proceeds, I mentioned American Liver Foundation, Living Bank, but I said on Fox, I'm adding, St. Patrick's Cathedral in the Archdiocese of New York. I got a voicemail yesterday when I was on the air, so I couldn't take the call. And when I checked it later, it said, "Hey, I really love what you're doing. This is Tim." And the man paused and said, "Cardinal Dolan," of course, as if I just got this call from Tim. He saw it on Fox. He was very grateful. I'm not holding it up. I'm not saying I'm going to save the church. I'm one person. I hope it's a generous donation based on sales and all the rest. And I think every person can make a difference. That's the message of the book. And that's what I hope the message of these donations to these charities and the church will be, which is that donations are down right now, folks. Let's step up and try to help.
All right, Ed Henry, anchor of America's Newsroom on the Fox News Channel and author of Saving Colleen. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Across the country, millions more Americans are out of work as the coronavirus crisis crushes the job market. The numbers are breathtaking. At the same time, Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill are drawing red lines on how to help the suddenly unemployed workers. Whitney Wild has the story from Washington.
Thursday marked one of the worst snapshots of the labor market in modern U.S. history.
We've been pretty frank with the American people that the shutting down of an economy is going to give us a few months of really, really startling data.
More than 3 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week, pushing the unemployment rate to 14% in April, the highest since the U.S. began releasing data in 1948.
Those numbers are as startling as anything we've seen since the Great Depression.
As Americans deal with the financial strain, lawmakers are debating another relief package. Democrats say they want more money to go to state and local governments, but Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says such funding should be contingent on passing liability reform to protect employers from lawsuits after the pandemic calms.
When we're looking at the states and municipalities and counties and the assistance that we would give them, we're looking at what are your outlays for the coronavirus and what is your revenue lost because of the coronavirus.
What she's ignoring is the second pandemic, which is going to be lawsuits against doctors, nurses, hospitals, and brave business people who are opening up.
Republicans and Democrats agree that additional stimulus funding is crucial to stabilizing the nation. But what neither side can say is when that aid will appear. The Senate heads back to Washington next week. The House likely won't return until a bill is ready for vote. In Washington, Whitney Wild, Currents News.
Some more medical news tonight that has nothing to do with the coronavirus. It's actually some good news in the fight against cancer. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University say they discovered a blood test that can detect cancer. The test, called a liquid biopsy, discovered 26 cancers. Demand for energy is down due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so much so the International Energy Agency says the system hasn't been disrupted this much since World War II. It says demand for all fossil fuels fell and resulted in a record-setting yearly drop in carbon emissions. Still to come on Currents News, food shopping during a pandemic has become even more of a chore. We have some tips on the best way to get your groceries. Also ahead, a man infected with the virus wakes up from his coma. Hear why he thinks that happened. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Farm workers are critical to keeping the nation fed during the pandemic. Once they've shipped off what they've cultivated, the food winds up in the grocery store. But trying to get all the items on your shopping list seems like mission impossible these days. Mandy Gaither has some tips on how to navigate the bare shelves.
Whether you shop in store, use curbside pickup, or swear by delivery, here are some pro tips Consumer Reports says can help. If you still prefer to go inside the store, you've noticed a lot of changes. Due to social distancing, here's how to make the most of your trip. Pinpoint the best hours. According to the CEO of Retail Aware, the best time to avoid people is Wednesday or Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Map out your route. This makes shopping fast and efficient. Try small shops or pharmacies. They could be less picked over for essentials. Staying home and having it delivered, get ready to multitask. Depending on where you live, getting a delivery time slot could be the biggest hurdle. Double up and use 2 services, filling your online cart in both, and see which one can deliver first. Check back often for delivery slots. Organize your list. This can make it easier. Tip well. This can make or break the quality of service since most of these apps have you tip up front. Want the best of both worlds? Try curbside pickup. Consumer Reports says you'll want to follow the same tips in order to get a time slot. But you can also branch out and try reaching out to distributors and ask if they are selling directly to customers since many restaurants are doing less business. I'm Mandy Gaither.
And finally tonight, a COVID-19 patient given just a 20% chance of survival is now on the road to recovery. The 39-year-old father of 4 was in a medically induced coma at a Nebraska hospital. He says his family gave permission for staff to give him remdesivir. That's the drug we talked about earlier as part of a clinical trial. He calls it a game changer and describes waking up days into the treatment.
Every bit of strength I possibly had, and I ripped my vent out of my mouth. Don't go out unless you have to. We have to get this under control.
He says his vitals remained stable without the ventilator. He kept making progress as the days passed and says he's confident remdesivir played a role. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Good night and God bless.